Hi there, it's Mr. Jonathan with the Osceola Library System, and today is Sunshine Readers Book Club, where every other week we'll be tackling one of the books from the Sunshine Readers Awards list for grades 3 through 5. And today's book is Power Forward, Zaid Saleem, Chasing the Dream by Hana Khan. And this book is about Zaid, a scrawny little boy whose passion is playing basketball. But even though he loves basketball, he's not necessarily the best player. In fact, he's on the D League while all of his friends are on the Gold team because he recently bombed the tryouts. So, while he's trying to learn how to be a better basketball player, Zaid's family has their own agendas. His grandma wants him to gain weight, his mom wants him to focus on healthy eating, and his mom and his dad wish that Zaid would focus less on playing basketball and more on learning to play the violin. And they've made Zaid join the orchestra, which is something he's not very passionate about. And Zaid eventually has to choose whether he's going to be honest with his parents and attend violin practice, which they've already paid for, or whether he's going to lie to them and do extra basketball practice with his friends in preparation for the upcoming tryouts. It's a tough choice, isn't it? So, this book I think you would really like if you're into sports, or if you know what it's like to be a kid that maybe you have a passion, but you're not very good at it yet and you're still learning how to get good at what you love. Or if you have parents that are always pushing you to do something that you're not quite as passionate about. I think you might find a lot in this book that you would really understand. We're going to dive deeper into some of those topics right now with my friends. Hi there, it's Mr. Jonathan, and today we have a special guest. We're talking all about Power Forward, and we actually have the author here. Her name is Hana Khan, and she is a Pakistani American Muslim writer from Maryland. And some of her other books you can pick up in the library are Amina's Voice, and then also Mars, which is like a choose your own adventure book. And we have these available on our shelves that you can check out. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm excited to chat with you.
Me too. So, this book deals a lot with Pakistan culture and like living that life where you're straddling both lives. Is that your experience as well?
Yes, my parents were immigrants to the United States from Pakistan. So I grew up definitely balancing two cultures and sort of trying to fit in both worlds. And I explore that a bit in my first middle grade novel, Amina's Voice, because she is a child of immigrants like me. In the Zaid Saleem series and Power Forward, Zaid is like my children in the sense that his grandparents were the immigrants, and he is a third generation Pakistani American kid. So he's a little further away from the culture than I was when I grew up. But he still gets a big kick out of it. So he loves the food and he loves his grandma's, Pakistani dramas that she's watching on TV and all the family and the festivities around, the culture. So it's a different perspective than I had when I was growing up.
There was a lot of talk about food in this book. And also, I noticed on your website, you seem to have very strong feelings about food too. What does food mean to you? And what do you think it also means, in particular, when you come from a culture that's different than the culture that you're surrounded by?
I think food is something that brings us together. And especially when you come from a different culture, it's something to share with people, to introduce. It's a nice way to introduce people to your culture. And Pakistanis are known for being, all about food, having big feasts, and our parties are very food centric. So we make a lot of dishes. You won't just find, one main dish and one side dish and maybe a salad. You'll find like five main dishes and like a whole table full of food. And I think food is our love language. So it's how we express, appreciation for others. During crisis times, during celebration times, people are always coming with food. So I think that's why you see a lot of it in my books.
I also thought that in your books, you portray some of those things about cultures that scare people who come from a culture that would have never encountered something like arranged marriage. And instead of taking it in like a negative light, like I felt like you did a really good job of explaining like this is a tradition that can be valid. And so I was wondering if you could speak to that, like why do you incorporate that into your books as well?
Yeah, so I think I love the idea of we have online dating now where we have, people setting up their friends on dates or introducing people. And essentially that's the way arranged marriage. My parents actually had a traditional arranged marriage where they didn't meet or really speak to each other much before they were married. Their families decided that they thought they would be a good match. And that has sort of changed over the years. And we don't find that as frequently, especially in the United States, but we do see families introducing what they think might be potential, partners together, or, friends doing the same type of thing that, I think is pretty widespread in our culture, American culture. But it can be a little bit awkward because you do feel like you're being watched or maybe like interviewed, and then sometimes the family is involved. It's not just the two people. The extended family may be there. So a lot of room for humor. And I wanted these books to be light and funny too, but I remember going with a family member to one of these setups, and it was really awkward for him, just like it is for Zaid's uncle. And he was sweating and he was nervous and he was afraid to look at the girl. And it was, for the rest of us who weren't feeling the pressure, we thought it was really funny. So I decided to weave that in a little bit, but also to show that, despite the differences between cultures, the feelings are the same. And, a lot of the ways we approach people are really the same underneath that all.
Well, that's really wonderful. I love that take. And I love seeing it in a book. I felt like this book really spoke to probably children that are experiencing similar things and don't find a lot of books like that on the shelves to express living that world where you're connected to two different cultures. I love that.
Thank you. Thank you.
And in this book, Zaid is also dealing with parents who have very strong expectations of him that don't align with his own expectations. And I was wondering, did you have that with your parents?
I did, definitely, in some ways. Not so much that they pushed me to do certain activities, or, Zaid's parents are really committed to him continuing to play the violin. They think that he's good at it and, want him to pursue that. And they feel that, I think like a lot of parents, when you've already invested maybe in a certain amount of time doing something, and maybe you've bought an instrument, they're like, well, you're doing this now, and my parents weren't so much like that, but I definitely felt, certain expectations from them in terms of how I was supposed to behave, and, to get good grades in school and to read lots of books. My mom would take us to the library and she expected to see me reading, which luckily I love doing. So definitely I felt that idea of your parents wanting you to behave a certain way or do certain things was something I wanted to get into.
Interesting. And so books seem to be a large part of your childhood. What were some of your favorite books or favorite authors?
So I think my all-time favorite author is Beverly Cleary. I loved Ramona Quimby and Henry Huggins and like the whole world that she created around those characters. I loved reading about families and neighborhoods, and that's why it was really fun for me to write Zaid's series and about his extended family and some of his antics. And actually, I'm working on a companion series right now that not too many people know about. So you're actually the first audience I'm sharing this with. So I started a new series that features, features Zara, Zaid's older sister, and it's set prior to the series beginning. And it's more of, the family and the neighborhood and friends. And it made me think of Beverly Cleary because I always loved when different series sort of connected to each other. And I thought, I really want to do that. So I'm excited that I had the chance to do that with this series.
Oh, that sounds wonderful, because like this family felt fully fleshed out. So it's really great that readers who felt connected to the family in the same way that I did as a reader will get to explore more. I love that. That's great.
Oh, thank you.
So Zaid bombs his first tryouts before the start of this book. And I'm wondering, have you ever had something really important to you, like an opportunity that you thought like, oh my gosh, this is it, and then flubbed it and how did you recover?
I'm so sorry. My sister is determined to keep calling me. And I don't know how to turn this off. I'm one of the only people with a landline that still have one. I'm in a meeting. Can I call you back? Sorry about that. I don't know if that could be edited or not, but everyone can see. Well, this disruption. Something I really wanted to do that I flubbed. Let's see. Well, I was pretty inhibited as a kid. I think I didn't try as many things as I wish I had. And, I wasn't very brave in terms of even, climbing to the top of the bars. I would sort of hover on the ground and be afraid to get hurt. So I can't think of anything specific that I that I flub, but I just love the idea of kids trying new things and, being brave. And I think as a mom, I saw my own sons be so much braver than I was, and, be willing to go to a basketball camp when they didn't really know much about basketball and be there with, 150 other kids. And I was like, wow, or just to, be on swim team or whatever it was. So I think I loved exploring that. And I do think kids today have a lot of guts to try a lot more than I did when I was growing up.
So you write not only like kind of contemporary books for children, but you also write speculative fiction as well. And I'm wondering, what about both worlds appeals to you?
I think it's so fun to immerse myself in a family, like I mentioned, a community, a neighborhood, and really build a world that I feel comfortable in and that relates to my own experience. But it's also fun to just go off on these adventures that are completely out of the norm and out of the world, like the Mars book that you mentioned. And it was so fun to do the research around what it would be like to travel to Mars and to actually talk to experts, and then construct a story around that, and put yourself in a completely out of this world experience. And I'm doing that again, actually, with a new series. It's another choose your path type story. It's called Super You. And it gives you, the reader, a superpower that you have to learn how to navigate. And it'll help you decide, or you choose whether you go on the path to becoming a superhero or a supervillain. And so that will be hopefully published next year. And the first superpower is the power of flight. So hopefully that would be fun to navigate and explore.
So I'm wondering, did you grow up reading a lot of those choose your own adventure books?
I did. I actually had a few of them. I bought them at my school book fairs, and I loved reading them over and over again. The one thing I found a little bit unsatisfying about them, though, was that sometimes they would just switch arbitrarily from, what felt like a realistic story to something magical. And I remember, in hindsight now, looking back, that I kind of felt cheated in a way because I wasn't prepared for that as a reader. I also didn't feel like the decisions you made always had consequences that made sense. So it was sort of just, okay, this happens, and I'd always go back and read what the other choice was, of course, but it didn't really seem to matter which choice you made. Um, and so when I did these books, Mars and Super You, that I'm working on now, the choices you make do have consequences. And if you want to get to a certain path, in this case, if you want to achieve ultimate success and colonize Mars, you can't, make the mistakes that make your spaceship blow up, for example. So you have to sort of follow a path to get there. And with the Super You books too, the choices you make will determine which whether your story continues to progress towards making you a superhero or a supervillain, or whether you'll just have some other side adventure that never gets you to either of those places.
Oh, I love that. So I read as a child that you were very shy. How did you overcome that as you were growing up?
So I think at my core, I still am shy, but I had to just fake it better. I do a lot of public speaking. I do a lot of school visits, and I have to be in front of big audiences. But I think that's something that it does give me a bit of anxiety still, and I've just learned to hide it better. And I think in Amina's voice, I explore that a bit. Amina is stage shy, and yet she has this beautiful singing voice, which I don't have, but she has, and she has to kind of overcome that. And I think when I describe the sensations in that book that she feels, when she's standing in front of a crowd and she, feels her, you know, herself getting sweaty or her leg starts to shake. And those are things that I used to experience when I was growing up. And even in high school, I was on my school debate team, and I used to feel those symptoms come on when I had to speak in front of a new audience. But yeah, I think it's just something I've worked on. And I am social, but I'm shy. So it's sort of a strange combination.
Nice. Well, thank you so much for joining us. because I feel like your books really not only speak to children that are straddling different cultures, but also children who are overcoming things like how to navigate their relationships with their parents and advocate for themselves and things like that, and exploring who you're going to become as a person. So I really enjoyed this book, and thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And I hope that everyone who's read Power Forward will continue to read Zaid's series. For those of you, I think it's probably clear, but I have the other two books here in the Zaid series. So the second one is On Point and the third is Bounce Back. So if you enjoyed it, you can check those out too. And we also have a new, I don't know if you saw, there's a new bind up version. This is all three books in one.
That's
and there's
wonderful.
a new illustrator. It's kind of hard to see with the
I love
glare,
that. That's
so I really like the new illustrated cover because I feel like it kind of captures a little more of the essence of Zaid. And that, you know, he is of course about basketball and sporty, but he also is, you know, a contemplative kid, and you see Zara in the background too. So I like that.
awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Hi, it's Miss Susan from Buenaventura Lakes branch of Osceola Library, and I read this book. I really enjoyed it, Power Forward by Hannah Khan, and the family, Zaid's family, drink a lot of chai, and I got to thinking, what exactly is chai? I have had it before. I really like it, but I'm not sure what exactly it is. So I started to do some research, and I found out the craziest thing. Chai is the Indian word for tea. In countries like India and Pakistan, they drink a lot of chai, and they make it with whole herb or spices instead of ground up spices. They'll use cinnamon sticks and whole anise and slices of ginger root and whole cardamom, and black tea and peppercorns maybe. Sometimes they'll use sugar or honey to sweeten it, and milk, and they'll brew this together. They'll put all of those ingredients into a tea strainer and let it brew in hot water, and then add the milk to it and sit down and enjoy a nice cup of tea, or chai I should say. So there's a lot of different versions of this, of how to make this, of a recipe. And several years ago I was given some instant chai as a gift, and I asked the person who gave it to me how they made it, and they shared their recipe so that I could make it today for this. And basically it is powdered milk, a half a cup of powdered milk, a half a cup of regular coffee cream, and maybe about a quarter of a cup of French vanilla coffee cream. And then the spices was a half a teaspoon of cardamom, a half a teaspoon of cloves, and a whole teaspoon of ginger, and a whole teaspoon of cinnamon. And you mix these together, and I mixed them together in this bowl, and you can see this is what it looks like. Oh, I forgot. Powdered tea, powdered instant tea. No lemon in it, and unsweetened. It's kind of hard to find. I had to shop around a lot, but there's powdered tea as well in that. And to make it really fine so that it'll dissolve well, because cinnamon powder doesn't really dissolve. After you mix all of your ingredients together, just maybe a couple big tablespoons at a time, put it in a blender and pulverize it to get it to be very, very fine. And like I said, it makes a really nice gift, but oh, it smells so good. In fact, I think I'm going to make myself a cup of this tea, and then I'll come back and finish this with you. All you need is about 2 tablespoons of your tea mix in your cup. Pour some boiling water on it, and be very careful because it's boiling water, and stir it up and drink. And I'll be right back. I'm back with my chai. Let's see, it looks pretty good and it smells really yummy. Let's see how it tastes. Oh, yummy. It's very good. Well, I'm just going to set a few of these things aside for right now. And I'm going to finish this up by putting my mix into a jar with a nice tight-fitting sealing lid so it doesn't get stale and lumpy or moisture in there, and it would make it not good anymore. And I just wanted to say too that the ingredients in the chai, the spices, especially the cinnamon and the cardamom and ginger and cloves, they all have some properties about them that can be pretty healthy. They are good for your digestion and circulation. So I guess chai is kind of healthy in that it does have those ingredients in them that have those properties about them. So, okay, so that's there. And you know, when you make this too, you could make it as a gift for somebody and put a little tag on it that tells them how much, 2 tablespoons per cup of hot water. And I enjoyed it when I got the gift, and so I think I'm going to sit back and relax a moment and drink the rest of my chai, and I hope you enjoyed this.
Hi everyone! In today's book, Power Forward, our main character, Zaid, had a dream of becoming a professional basketball player. And today what I'm going to do is show you how you can make your very own miniature basketball court. So you see, I already made mine, but yours doesn't have to look like mine. Actually, there aren't too many instructions I have to give you at all, because all I did was take recyclable materials and put them together. So what I did first was I was in a local store and I saw piles of cardboard boxes that they were going to get rid of. And I asked if I could have one, and they said yes. So I took this box, which you might recognize as a box that could hold school supplies, maybe file folders or notebooks. I turned it sideways using my imagination, and what I did was I added a hoop out of a cup. I cut off the bottom. And then this right here, that actually came from a turkey. I made my turkey, and notice this was holding the turkey together. I kept it, I washed it, and I cut it, and I glued it inside. And then down here, I printed off a little picture of the bottom of a basketball court, and I put it there. But I don't need to do that. I can draw it with markers, right? So that's what I used. You could use anything that you want. So for example, you might find a different box that looks like this. I could keep it, I can make my basketball court flat. Decorate inside, putting the court on there, drawing the markings. I could also use a box like this, maybe a garbage bag box that I got. It opens like that, so I could cut off the top. I can cut it to look like that too. So you can use any box that you want and just decorate it to look like a basketball court. I then am going to make something like a catapult to get my basketball into the hoop. So I have 3 different types of catapults here for you to use. Now, the first one is a very basic one, and the second one, the same thing, very similar, except on this one, I glued on the top to a medicine bottle, and on this one, I glued on a spoon. What's going to happen is this one is a little bit longer, so it's probably going to give you a little bit more of an arch. And then this one was a little bit different. Instead of doing it this way, I will show you in a minute. So the first way to make this is I take 7 popsicle sticks. I put them together and I rubber band both ends. Now I rubber banded that end. I'm going to rubber band this end. This is going to be the inside of our catapult. Then I'm going to take 2 popsicle sticks and rubber band one end. I'm going to take the 2 popsicle sticks, open them with my finger. This is a little tricky, you might need some help with this, and slide the 7 in between. Now what's going to happen, they tell you you don't need to do this part, but I find with my catapults it works best because look, it's sliding right out. I'm then going to take a rubber band, and this is probably where you could use a couple extra hands, and I'm going to crisscross over from this side to this side to keep that in place. So I went from my left side to my right side. Now I'm going to take another rubber band. I'm going to do it the other way, from my right side, right, and to my left side. And that crisscross will help to keep it in place. Much better. So now you've got the basis of your catapult. You decide what you want to do. You could use a medicine bottle top, you could use a soda bottle top, a water bottle top, you could use a plastic spoon, anything like that. And all I did with this one was I hot glued it on. Now remember, if you're going to use hot glue, make sure your adult helps you with that. Don't want anybody to get burnt. Or this, I didn't even hot glue it on. All I did was rubber band my plastic spoon onto my catapult. All right, so those are those 3 basic that way. This one was a little bit more difficult. What I did was I took 3 popsicle sticks and formed them into a triangle. I then took 1 additional popsicle stick and I put it down the middle, kind of dividing it in half. I took a binder clip and I glued the binder clip onto the bottom, and I glued the top of the binder clip onto another popsicle stick. This one is extremely messy looking too. I didn't like this as much because it didn't look as nice. And then what I did was I hot glued a bottle cap onto this. And you can see this, you hold down on the bottom and you clip like that. That might go a little farther, a little faster. These might not go as far. You see there's not as much play on that as there is on this because of the binder clip. See how that clips up like that? So that is up to you which one of those you'd like to make. I want to show you another type that you could make. This one used an egg carton. They took an egg carton and a straw. Again, they took a cup and cut off the bottom. And that is your basketball court right there. You want to be careful though. You might need something to keep this down because the egg carton isn't as sturdy as a box. Instead of using a plastic cup, I could use something like a yogurt container and cut off the bottom. Or I don't even have to cut off the bottom because you know what? It might be difficult to cut off the bottom. You might need your grown-up to get a special kind of knife to cut off the bottom. So this way, you use this as your basketball hoop. Guess what? The ball just stays in there. Then you don't have to chase it. All right. And I told you before, this little netting part was from my turkey. I also had a bag of potatoes, a mini bag of potatoes. I could have used this. Look at that. That looks almost like netting too. Or you don't need net at all. All you need is your imagination. Now, it's time to play basketball. I have a ping pong that I tried to make look like a basketball. Doesn't look very much like a basketball, does it? But I tried. We could use pom-poms or we could use cotton balls. You can use just about anything that you want to use. All right, and I like this. The rest of my egg carton keeps my little basketballs so I don't have to run after them. So I'm going to move this one over here. I'm going to choose, I think I'm going to choose my, which catapult should I use? Well, let's see. Let's try it this way. I'm going to turn just a little bit. All right, can you guys see that? Actually, I should probably turn my body a little bit so you guys could actually see this. All right, so I'm going to scooch out just a minute. I'm going to bend down. All right, I'm going to take this one first. I'm going to try my ping pong ball. I'm not going to try my ping pong ball first because you know what? That'll go flying really far. I'm going to try my little pom-pom first. And I want to make sure, can you see that? That I am going to get it in the basket. So I'm going to hold down my catapult and I'm going to fling. Oh, I didn't do such a good job. Whoops, too high. All right, let's try the next one, the one with the spoon. I'm going to use a cotton ball this time. Ready? Stuck on my fingers. Holding down the bottom. Oh, that one flung it much higher, but not as far. Oops, didn't do such a good job with that one either. All right, so let's try this one. I wonder if it makes a difference if I use a pom-pom or a cotton ball because of the weight. Ready? I'm gonna try this one. Whoa, that one went much further. Did you see that? Woo, that went much further. Let's try one more time. I'm gonna move this back a little bit. I'm gonna try not to fling so hard. Oh, almost. Are you ready? Oh, a little bit over too far. All right, so what I'm gonna do very last time, I'm going to try my ping pong ball. See my ping pong ball that made to look like a basketball? And see if I can do it. Oh! Well, as you can see, I am not an expert basketball player, but with a lot of practice and a lot of time and my wonderful mini basketball court, I could be a professional basketball player just like Zaid wanted to be in the book. Make one of these, send us pictures so we can see it, and I hope you have fun making your basketball court, because I certainly did.
I hope that you enjoyed Power Forward by Hanahan as much as we did. Thanks for joining us on the Sunshine Readers Book Club, and make sure to come back in 2 weeks when we read Strongheart by Candace Fleming. Get ready for some dog-tastic activities. Bye-bye!